Okay, just a very sweet, short little story. During the pandemic, COVID, I had a lot of things that were churning in my heart and mind, and I was like under a lot of distress, like spiritual anxiety, and just like, seeing a lot of anarthas that were like coming up, and somehow a devotee, someone that was like came in and visit, shared this Google Drive lecture, not even a YouTube, like a Google Drive lecture of Rukmini. And it was the first time I heard her speak. And she just like soothed my heart, like in such a way that it was just so meaningful. It was like, yeah, I get emotional. It was like such a difficult moment in my life. I remember I was like weeding some root crops and hearing your lecture and something that you were saying. It's like you need to employ Krishna in your heart, like in a very gentle, motherly way. It's like, she was just calling us all out. She's like, what are you doing? You have all the support that you need. Just employ Krishna in your heart. He's like an equal employer. And just like not what she was saying that, but how she was saying it, it like really like spoke to my heart. And I had like a heart moment. And then afterwards, I'm like, who is Rukmini? Like I have something to learn from this devotee. And I had no idea that you were such an exalted personality. Rukmini like travels all over the world. She just came back from Europe. She's on her way to India very soon to lead an amazing retreat with her beloved son, Gauravani, who's a dear friend. She's like really, really engaged, like traveling the world, like serving Srila Prabhupada. And I had no idea. I just like reached out to her and Rukmini, out of her heart, I'm like, hi, Hare Krishna, here I am, an insignificant devotee that, barely knows anything. And just like making that simple request, can I learn from you? Can we share? And I want to learn Krishna book from you out of nowhere. And Rukmini, like, totally, like, out of, despite all her engagement in service, she, like, took us under her shelter, like, we read Krishna book for weeks on, like all the plenitude family benefited from it. She came to Puerto Rico, blessed us with her association. Then, recently we spent some time in Vermont together, and that just shows like the spirit of a Vaishnava, of a devotee, that they're just like so humble. They're not thinking, here I am, I'm a big disciple of Srila Prabhupada. They're just so humble and see with equal vision. Like she just demonstrated what we've been learning for the past 2 years in the Bhagavad Gita of like seeing everyone with equal vision. And that's, I don't know, Rukmini, that's something that you model for me personally so much, just that ability to be kind to everyone and see the potential and the love. And again, there's so many more things that I can say, but that all those qualities, saintly qualities of you really touch my heart, and I'm sure they'll continue to touch everyone's heart here today. So thank you so much for making this space.
Thank you.
Always.
Thank you for the very kind words of encouragement, and I pray that one day they come true by the grace of all of you, saintly, sweet devotees in Puerto Rico. So I'm so grateful to be here, to be invited back to Plenitude. Thank you so much. And I'll chant some prayers for blessings, that I can speak something, what I've heard and what I've received. So. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Sadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paschatsadeshatarine Panchakapatarobhyascha kripasindhu vaevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. May the entire universe be blessed with peace and good hope. May everyone driven by envy and enmity become pacified and reconciled. May all living beings develop abiding concern for the welfare of others. May our own hearts and minds be filled with purity and serenity. May all these blessings flow naturally from this supreme benediction. May our attention become spontaneously absorbed in the rapture of love unto the transcendent Lord. Thank you all so much for being here. Nice to see all of you, so many dear friends, Yashoda and Naina and Kunti and so many dear friends, Siona. Thank you all for being here, taking your time. My dear Jalil. Thank you for being in Puerto Rico, leaving DC and blessing Puerto Rico. So, today, Draupadi Paula asked if we could discuss this third chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam, you could say, is the magnum opus of bhakti. So what does magnum opus mean? The Oxford Dictionary gives a definition that a large and important work of art, music, or literature, especially one regarded as the best work of an artist, composer, or writer. So that's a definition of magnum opus. So Srimad Bhagavatam is a gigantic work of 12 cantos or skandhas, about 18,000 verses. And Srila Prabhupada, our dear beloved Srila Prabhupada, dedicated his life to translating Srimad Bhagavatam in the middle of the night while all of us, his beginner disciples, were sleeping, while he was traveling all over the world, opening temples, guiding disciples, lecturing every day, answering every letter he ever received. Still at night, he would be translating Srimad Bhagavatam. And in his lifetime, he translated about 60 volumes. But he left some to be completed by his disciples also, which is beautiful. So when he traveled to New York City from India, he waited until he'd published and somehow printed. Even he was so poor, so impoverished, but somehow or other he was able to print and publish these first 3 volumes, first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, to carry with him on the cargo ship. So he didn't fly in an airplane. He went on a cargo ship, pretty rough, and but he didn't want to come empty-handed. So, he wanted to have Srimad Bhagavatam with him. So Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna, and Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken about Krishna, and both are equally sacred. And Srimad Bhagavatam is called the literary incarnation of God, compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. Srimad Bhagavatam is the book Bhagavata, and great devotees of the Lord are called person Bhagavatas. So Srimad Bhagavatam is full of pastimes of Lord Krishna, his many incarnations, and the pastimes of many great devotees like Narada Muni, who you'll meet in the next chapter if you haven't met him already. And these are the person Bhagavatas who so kindly appear in the pages of the book Bhagavata. So maybe you've heard in the previous chapters, but just to recap, to set the scene, set the beginning scene. So Srimad Bhagavatam begins with a large meeting of saints and holy sages that were gathered at a holy place in the forest, something like plenitude. It's the forest of Naim Sharanya. And it's still there today. You can actually go there. So if you ever go to India, sometimes you can take a little detour and go visit the forest of Naim Sharanya, which is still pretty foresty. It's not like a big city built up with skyscrapers at this point. So these sages were performing 1,000-year sacrifice to bless the world and to try to, try to counteract the upcoming negative age of Kali, which was predicted to deteriorate all the good qualities of the human beings. So maybe you've heard of the age of Kali. And in any case, even if you haven't, we can all see its bad effects all around us, right? Quarrel, hypocrisy, lying, cheating, laziness to try to understand the self. So the conversation of these sages begins when they ask 6 important questions. And maybe you've already discussed the questions, or maybe you've already heard them mentioned. But I was thinking there's no harm in mentioning the 6 again, right? Sometimes people criticize Prabhupada's books and say, why does he keep repeating the same things over and over and over? Well, you know what? I think we're pretty dull-headed. At least I can speak for myself. My brain is pretty thick. And, it's really important to hear things repeated, and we can learn so much. So I'm going to repeat those first questions, because the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is sort of based on answering those questions. So the first question is, this is such an important one, what is the ultimate good for all people? The second question is, what is the essence of all religious scriptures by which the actual self can become satisfied? Pretty good questions, right? The third one is, why did Lord Krishna take birth from his mother Devaki? The fourth one, what acts did he perform? And the fifth one, who are his avatars? And finally, the sixth question, where has Dharma or religious principles gone now that Lord Krishna has left the earth? So 4 of these questions are answered in chapter 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, which I think you already discussed, the previous chapter. And the last 2 of these questions are answered and discussed in this 3rd chapter, and we'll try to unpack that and try to explain. So this whole chapter is talking about the different avatars of God. What's an avatar? Maybe you saw the movie. Maybe you've played the game. But the Sanskrit word avatar actually means one who descends, one who comes down from a higher place, from a higher world, really to bless this earthly world, right? And why did these avatars keep coming down to this earth, to the material world? What's their purpose? Well, they keep coming down here to remind us of the love and the life that we've forgotten. Kind of like, do you all know the biblical story of the prodigal son in the Bible? This son, he had a very rich father. Anna is shaking her head, yes. So he had a very rich son, but he had an amnesia, and he didn't know who he was, what his home was. So we're kind of like that. We have a spiritual amnesia. We've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten that we have a loving home. We've forgotten that we have a loving Father who's missing us, Krishna, waiting for us to come back to him to enjoy his bountiful plenitude life with him, right? So this word incarnation is a little tricky. In a Christian context, it means one who has taken on flesh or a material body. That's the way the Christians understand it. But the Eastern or Vedic understanding is that these avatars descend in spiritual bodies. Krishna and his avatars descend in spiritual bodies. And in this chapter, so many different avatars are listed. And it's also said that the avatars of God are as numerous as the waves on the ocean. How beautiful is that, right? Think about that. So beautiful. So Srimad Bhagavatam was said to have been composed about 5,000 years ago, right as the Krishna had left the earth and the Kali Yuga was appearing on the earth after Krishna left. So, so it was composed about 5,000 years ago. Scholars argue with that, but anyway, it predicted the future appearance of Lord Buddha about 2,500 years ago. Predicted before he appeared. So there are many different types of avatars that are described also. Some are not mentioned by name in this chapter, but for example, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, are considered to be a certain type of avatar called Shaktivesh avatar, which means an empowered living being who's empowered by God with the potency to share the divine message of God. So these different avatars are also predicted in different places in scriptures, and we can't make them up. Sometimes some popular guru might come through San Juan or New York City or wherever saying he or she is a divine avatar. Not really, The avatars are predicted. You can't really make them up, But the essential verse in this chapter is verse number 28. And it says that of all these different types of avatars, in Sanskrit, it says Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that Lord Shri Krishna is the source of all of these many different avatars. And you might think, wow, that's a pretty preposterous proposition. I want to tell you a little story in here. I remember once I was in Los Angeles and there was a group of different scholars who had come to meet Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles, and they came to the temple and they're all sitting in the temple, had a nice garden, private garden, and some of them were Christians, some were Jewish scholars, and they were discussing theology with Prabhupada in the temple garden. And Srila Prabhupada very boldly made this assertion that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the source of all other avatars. And these gentlemen were academics. They were scholars who'd spent their entire lives and careers. They'd written books based on their faith, their knowledge, their academic research. And here's this Indian Swami telling them Krishna is God, the source of all that be. And guess what? They weren't buying it. And they were saying, well, we say we don't know. They were kind of feigning a humility almost, like we say we don't know who is God or what God looks like, and you're saying you know. Isn't that kind of arrogant? Like, what audacity? How dare you? It was really interesting to watch, And Srila Prabhupada was so convinced. And these gentlemen were deep thinkers, but they were speculative, they were conjecturing, they were intellectualizing. And Srila Prabhupada was so convinced and yet so sweet and innocent and really kind of childlike. And he was saying, it was almost like, kind of reminded me of the Emperor's New Clothes a little bit, because he was like the little child and he was so convinced and innocent and childlike. And he's saying, I say I know, and you say you don't know. And then he said, why don't you accept my version? It was really kind of funny. So, wow, what a preposterous proposition to all of these big scholars, And of course, they couldn't accept what he was saying. They were invested in their careers and their scholarship. And it was so interesting to contrast them to us. We were not big scholars, just little disciples of Prabhupada, but we could see Srila Prabhupada's extraordinary conviction beyond a shadow of doubt. and we had faith in him, So here's the key verse, the key point that Srila Prabhupada was so boldly making in that conversation, that Lord Sri Krishna is the origin of all, the supreme personality of Godhead. And this is one of the most important verses, kind of the basis for the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, for understanding the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. So I want to say it in Sanskrit because the Sanskrit has power, and it's purifying to the heart to hear the Sanskrit chanted. So I'll chant the Sanskrit verse. Ete chamsa kalak punsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Midayanti Yuge Yuge. So in English, the verse says, all the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. So that's the verse. So that's the answer to the fifth question of the sages about, and then the in Srimad Bhagavatam and subsequent cantos, these different avatars, different incarnations are described. So what about the sixth question of the sages at Naimsharanya? That's also answered in this chapter, this important chapter. So that question is, where has Dharma or real religion gone now that Lord Krishna has left the earth? So again, Lord Krishna, by the way, left the earth about 5,000 years ago, and that's when this dangerous age of Kali began. So when his lotus feet were no longer walking on the earth, the age of Kali was able to kind of seep into the world. So toward the end of this third chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, there's this other famous and beautiful verse number 43, that answers this kind of burning question by these sages. So they're thinking, these are great sages, great saints, sitting in a forest for 1,000 years discussing these things. And they're thinking, what about us? Krishna's gone back to his spiritual abode in the spiritual world. And this chapter is describing avatars who've come in the past and one who's going to come in the future. Well, I mentioned Buddha, that one also. But then in the future, at the end of Kali Yuga, there's this Lord Kalki. He comes at the end of Kali Yuga. But these sages are kind of thinking, this is their big question, what about us? Where do we go for shelter? What about us here now, right? So we could be asking the same question. So again, this is worth saying in the original Sanskrit. Krishne svadharm upagate dharma jnanadi bisaha kalam nasta dusham esha puranarko danoditaha. This is really beautiful. This Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by knowledge, religion, etc. Persons like us who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in this age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. What do you think? Do you like that verse? It's beautiful, right? Yeah. So just to rehash a little bit, Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of Bhagavad Gita. And Srimad Bhagavatam is like the graduate study of Krishna. And it's the direct representation of Krishna. And both Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are like torch bearers for us blind people in this age of Kali. And we people of Kali Yuga can see the real light in our lives and fulfill the aim of our lives through reading and studying these books carefully. And it's said that one can begin to see Lord Krishna directly in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam and Lord Krishna are identical. They are one and the same. So this is a very, very holy book, you know. And so by chanting the holy name of Krishna, and along with studying these two books, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, we can begin to fulfill this real, true aim of life, to learn who is God and to begin to learn to love him. So thank you all so much for opening your hearts to listen deeply to all of this, and just trying to hear this beautiful Bhagavatam. It's such a saving grace for all of us, for all of humanity. And I hope you will be inspired by these conversations on Srimad Bhagavatam. And I hope you will be able to drink deeply all of this nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, which can fulfill all of our desires. So thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for giving your Sunday morning to hear all of this. And this is a lot, right? It's just so much to take in, really. But by regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we can gradually come to understand, kind of like, you could say, like drops of water can eventually wear away stone, right? So by regularly hearing, we can begin to understand. So thank you again. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. And maybe you have some reflections on what we've discussed, or maybe you have some questions. So it's such an honor to be with all of you today. Hare Krishna. Wow, I see that cute Anjali. Hare Bol, Anjali. Anjali, I told your parents that that's always been my favorite name. So, what do you guys think? Any complaints? Any reflections? What did you hear? Did you hear something that was important? Something that was a change agent?
Mother Rukmini, I have a question. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you.
So in verse 28 it says, all the previously mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. So plenary means whole, right? Complete. So what is the difference between the original and a complete incarnation?
Good question. I knew I could count on you to ask a deep question. Thank you so much. So there's a beautiful book called Brahma Samhita, which you can get. It's a tiny book. It's verses composed by Lord Brahma at the beginning of creation. Oh, you have it. Good. It has really head-cracking commentaries by Prabhupada's guru that, I mean, frankly, you have to have a major dictionary to understand his English. Like you can get a small dictionary and the words that he uses won't even be in the small dictionary. Anyway, so there's a verse in that Brahma Samhita that gives a beautiful pictorial kind of answer. So Krishna is like if you light one candle, right? And then you use that one candle to light other candles that are the same strength. So there's that one original candle, but then there are others that have the same strength but are not the original one. So like Krishna's first expansion is his brother Balaram. And Balaram is, you could say, has the same potency as Krishna. So there are a lot of technical terms I could give. I don't want to like crack your heads over this, but there's a term Prakash Vigraha or Vibhav. So there's different kinds of expansions. Balaram is basically just like Krishna, except Krishna's the original. And this beautiful thing about Balaram is that Draupadi loves Balaram, by the way. Paula Draupadi, she's a great lover of Balaram. Balaram has his own crew of devotees, actually, and Krishna has his own crew of devotees. But Balaram is in this beautiful mood. Prabhupada calls him the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. So he has the same potency as Krishna, but he's in this mood, how can I serve Krishna? How can I smooth the path for all his pastimes? So when Krishna comes as Krishna, his brother is Balaram. When he comes as Lord Ram, his brother is Lakshman. And when he comes as Lord Chaitanya, his brother is Lord Nityananda. When he comes as Lord Vishnu, Lord Balaram becomes Ananta Shesh. Did you ever see a picture of that gigantic snake? So Lord Vishnu is lying down. He's in this mystic sleep. His eyes are half closed. And there's this gigantic snake over him. Not an evil snake, but a friendly snake. And he's like an umbrella over Vishnu. He's like a bed. He's like slippers. He's like a couch. He's everything comfortable for Lord Vishnu. And Balaram is actually, he expands as the holy places. He expands like if you do arti, if you have incense or you have a little lamp, Balaram incarnates as all of those different paraphernalia, the holy places to serve Krishna. So this gets into really, really detailed stuff. And there's, many, many different explanations in the coming chapters about the 3 Purusha avatars. It goes on and on and on. But just lend your heart and open your heart to hear all these inconceivable things. But that's a bit of an answer to that question, is that, so there's plenary like Balaram, there's partial plenary that goes on and on and on. And then there's Shaktivesh, there's empowered living beings, But, I did want to make that point that any guru who shows up in San Juan who says, I'm an avatar, maybe not, Yeah, so... So thank you for the brilliant question, which I could expect from you. So, any other questions or complaints, or what was not clear? Any questions about anything?
Hare Krishna, Rukmini. Yeah. A quick question, but first, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you shared. You had so much content packed. It was like a superfood. It was like a super shake there, just like so much dense, and then a tasty way too, like with a honey mixed in with it. So, yeah, thank you. And your
bananas, some blueberries, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And your story of Srila Prabhupada was really beautiful too. Thanks for sharing that. No, please go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's kind of a wild story, Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. I was just thinking of this, question, kind of like if you could share more about kind of like some of the different purposes for how Krishna engages in the world. We've been hearing more about how, this is like separate from the spiritual world, right? And this isn't Krishna's world by design, right? Like Krishna designs the spiritual world, and that's where he's playing, and that's like that's his proud creation, right? That's what he's really excited about. This is this, little dark corner of existence that, is kind of here because we wanted to have this experience. And so he's facilitating it, and he's facilitating it. It's through him, through his powers, yet he's in this mystical way able to stay aloof from it, yet he's in it. And then he comes in periodically to help us, to protect his devotees, to serve. I don't know, could you share anything more about just this, just about his purpose, in the world, like why he comes. I know there's often so many layers too, like with Chaitanya, you hear about these different layers of why he's here. And I don't know, I think you could share along those lines about Krishna, how he engages with us in this world.
Thank you. Thank you. Really beautiful question. Yeah, this is kind of like the reform school. So, just like Jean Miguel, he's in government, so the government doesn't really want to make a prison, right? But there's some people who are a little incorrigible. So when a government starts to form itself in any country, they know they have to create a prison. There has to be a jail for the ones who just don't want to, do the right thing. So we come to this world, Bhagavad Gita says, based on desire and hate, kind of an enviousness. Like we, at some point back in our billions and trillions of lives ago, we had this idea that, hey, why should Krishna get all the girls? I'm pretty good looking myself, or if I'm a girl, yeah, I mean, yeah, everybody should look at me. Why should Krishna get all the attention? So with that desire, we kind of get hurled into this little corner, reform school place where we're meant to learn. And it's supposed to be, what do they talk about? Prison reform. It's supposed to be reformatory prison, right? We're supposed to learn. And so Krishna keeps coming down in all these avatars, trying to attract our minds, trying to attract our hearts in some way. Maybe our attention will get caught by Mohammed or Jesus Christ or Lord Buddha, and we can make some little baby steps of progress back to him. So he comes down kind of like to advertise his pastimes, yeah, it's really fun up here, you guys. All we do is play. We don't work. We don't need a job up here. We don't need a salary. Come play with me. So he comes down to advertise. But, it's a little hard for us to get it through our thick skulls. So that's why we need to hear repeatedly or take lives repeatedly. And, and Krishna's so kind. He's not one of those lovers who forces himself on you like, okay, I'm here, baby. You got to love me on my terms. No, he's not like that. He's, he wants our love willingly. So it's a kind of a beautiful thing. So, and if we have other desires than loving him, then he gives us a chance. All right, come back and try it again. Try becoming the smartest guy in the room. I heard this thing the other day that I'd never heard before, that if you think you're the smartest guy in the room, that means that you're in the wrong room. It's really good, isn't it? So, yeah, we keep thinking, oh, I'm the smartest guy in the room, or I'm the most beautiful, or I'm the most rich, or I'm the most powerful. I've got the most, skyscraper buildings in Manhattan, or, I've got the most beautiful agricultural property in Puerto Rico, whatever it is. And when we have those little desires, then Krishna, all right. So then he holds back like a real lover until we want to love him. He's the most beloved person, but it's our choice. We can keep loving the things of this world, or we can turn to him. So I like that, that prodigal son metaphor from the Bible, that we've got this spiritual amnesia. We don't realize like we're struggling, right? Are you struggling? I mean, I know I struggle, like we keep struggling, but we keep thinking, oh, this will fix it. That will fix it. If I do this, if I get a new car, if I get $100, or if I get, this will fix it. But, oh, one thing that's nice to mention, I know some of you listen to Wisdom of the Sages with Raghunath and Kastuba. Raghunath likes to quote this Franciscan monk, Richard Rohr. Maybe you've read some of his books. He's very broad-minded, but he has this beautiful saying that he says we all come into this world with a God-sized hole in our hearts, and we keep trying to fill it up with, drugs or intoxications or shopping or this or this or this, and nothing fills it up. Relationships, because it's a God-sized hole, and only God, especially in his most beautiful and unlimited form, is going to fill up that hole. So, yeah. What do you guys think? Other thoughts or questions, or do you feel like you're in a reform school and it's kind of mean, or what do you think?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing more about that. Yeah. I mean, I definitely have more questions, but it'd be great to open it up. Yeah. To share if anybody else has any more questions or comments. Yeah. Or reflections.
reflections, questions, comments, or more from you, Vaishnava, would be wonderful too. Or any, you have some doubt, like maybe you're thinking, I don't know, this is pretty Indian. I'm not really Indian. Like, how come we're doing all this Indian stuff? Or what is it? Anything bothering you, bugging you? You're supposed to ask questions on the class that was presented, but I don't mind if you ask a question that's bugging you from about anything, or yeah.
Dandavats, dear devotees, Hare Krishna. My reverences to you, Rukmini Ji. Thank you so very much for your association and this incredible super seva that you do. And you've been doing for so many years and keeping Prabhupada's legacy alive. It's so evident that you are just embodying his energies, his Shakti. So, and also I can totally tell where Gauravani gets his storytelling talents from. That's super sweet. I wanted to share that when you started speaking the Krishna Katha, a whole flock of parrots came through, and also a hummingbird was just like hanging around the whole time. So it was super sweet to see that all the souls wanted to be in association. And thank you to the Plenitude crew and all of the devotees here and the Sangha that always, uplifts every morning that we share. And also to all the acharyas and all of our gurus, including Harinam Prabhu, for starting this program. And so grateful for each and every one of you. So thank you, Rukmini Ji, for your super seva throughout the years. It's very, 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 very comforting and soothing to the soul. Jai.
Thank you.
Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you. Jai Prabhupada. Thank you for your very kind words. So it's so nice that a flock of parrots flew in because, did you know that this Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken by Sukadeva Goswami, and he was previously Radharani's parrot. Did you ever hear that before? He's Radharani's parrot. Some people, so Krishna has a parrot, a pet parrot that says Radhe, Radhe. And Radharani has a parrot that says Krishna, Krishna. So some people say that Sukadeva Goswami is the two of those parrots combined. Some people say he's Radharani's parrot. But so parrots are very sacred. In Vrindavan, parrots are messengers. And they send messages to Krishna, telling Krishna, where is Radharani right now? So he can go find her. And they send messages to Radharani, telling her where Krishna is. So, and the parrots are servants of Tulsi Devi. Tulsi Devi is, Tulsi Devi has one form as a plant, but she's also a goddess. And she's sort of the choreographer of all the Vrindavan pastimes. And she sends her parrot messengers. So maybe she sent those parrots over to you this morning. She sends her parrot messengers around Vrindavan with messages from Krishna, from Radha. So maybe one day we'll get messages from the parrots as well, like you did today. But thank you for your kind words. We're just, Prabhupada has a motley crew of beginner disciples who are just trying to carry it on. But, it's human nature that a grandfather will love the grandchildren more than the children, because children basically give you headaches, but grandchildren are just for pleasure. You can just give them ice cream and enjoy them. So, whatever love Prabhupada has for his disciples like me, he has more love for all of you. So remember that and never feel like, I never saw Prabhupada, because if you take steps to chant the holy name and understand his teachings, then he will give more grace to you than he ever gave to his troublesome disciples. So, What else?
What a sweet pastime. I must share that I do love your grandkids as well. They're incredible. It's been so lovely to be in association with them. And just a quick side note, thanks to Tulsi Devi and Jayasita, I became a devotee. So thank you.
beautiful. Where is Jayasita? Is she here? She's wonderful. She's wonderful. Yeah, Tulsi Devi and Jayasita. Nice. Anything else? Other questions or reflections or complaints or anything not clear? What's a plenary portion or anything else?
Hare
What's
Krishna.
an avatar? Hare Krishna.
Rukmini, thank you. I mean, I echo everything that Jaima and Vaij said. This is, yeah. I feel the light of the Puranas through your parrot, beautiful lips. So thank you. And yeah, I just wanted to share something that we've been, it's more like a question, something that, we've shared often in our Sangha here. It's like, we're hearing this light of the Puranas, right? That helps us undo, right? And gives us the light in the reformative prison as you're sharing. And sometimes, as part of being in the prison, like things happen, our scripts, get revealed and we go through like difficult things that happen to us. And it's sometimes it's a little challenging, to deal with the reformative lessons in prison and yeah, and how over the years you've seen so many devotees like yourself, you've gone through, I'm sure, like ups and downs. Like how do you deal with not spiritually bypassing what or even what's happening in the world and also like holding on to the truth? And I don't know if I said it properly. Yeah. So
That's a big question these days, this idea of spiritual bypass. So if I'm doing some spiritual practice, am I just like creating like a subterfuge for reality? I mean, this world, this stuff, matter, this is the real thing, and am I just bypassing it when I try to do Krishna consciousness or any other spiritual practice? So when I've been thinking about this, actually, I believe that spiritual bypass means when the practice remains in the head space and it doesn't sink down to the heart space. So Krishna consciousness is meant to sink down into the heart space. It's meant to be an active, proactive calling out, crying out to Krishna. Please let me love you. Let me know you. I was actually thinking this morning about George Harrison's song. George Harrison's music is like this one devotee in the UK. Yeah, we love him, right? Uncle Gauravani sometimes sits around and sings his songs. He says, I'm just hanging out with Uncle George. But one devotee in the UK actually did a master's thesis on the love and separation in the music of George Harrison. That was his master's thesis. So my point is here, it's supposed to sink down to the heart space. I really want to love you, Lord. I really want to know you, Lord. But it takes so long. I know, So the problem is that I think the problem is pride. And the problem is a lack of gratitude. Gratitude, like you guys a lot of you are farmers, right? So there's a type of soil that pride is a type of a soil. It's a barren type of a soil that gratitude can't really grow in. So when we're proud and all these teachings just remain in the headspace and I want to show off, I want to tell people what I know, all the verses I memorized, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, then it's pride and gratitude, which is like a linking point between spirit and matter. Gratitude can't really take root in that kind of soil when we're full of pride. And I think that's what spiritual bypass is about, that I think I know. I think I'm a yogi and I can do so many poses. I can twist my body like a pretzel and I can quote so many verses and I can tell people, other people where they're at. That's how spiritual bypass, which we see in the saints of all traditions, not just the Krishna conscious people, but, if you read St. John of the Cross, if you read St. Teresa of Avila, if you hear from Mother Teresa, who's almost our contemporary, you know, if you hear from these people, you see that it's in the heart space, and spiritual bypass is just up in the head space, you know, and that's all about pride, showing off, posturing, you know. So, yeah, I'm just reminded of this. I hope I'm not talking too much too long, but I was just thinking of this nice quote from Mother Teresa, where she said, people used to come to her place in Calcutta and say, "Oh, you're great, great, great. You're doing great. You're all doing great work helping the poor people in Calcutta." And she once said this really beautiful thing, that she said, you know, what I and my other sisters are doing here, she said, whatever we're doing, it's like little drops in the ocean. But then it was so humble, right? But then she said something really, really beautiful too. She said, but without those little drops, the ocean would be that much less. Isn't that beautiful? It's like she wasn't discounting that she's doing something. Yes, we're doing something, but it's like little drops in the ocean. And without our little drops, the ocean would be that much less. So this is real true spirituality. And it has no sectarian boundaries. One Orthodox teacher from the Greek Orthodox tradition said that our sectarian boundaries do not reach all the way up to heaven, you know? So that true spirituality is like fire, and we're meant to be burnt. We're meant to catch fire. I like to quote, maybe you've heard me quote this before, that Jesus Christ, I love this one. He said, be hot or be cold, but if you are lukewarm, I spit you out. So our hearts are meant to catch fire. And if they're not on fire, then we're somewhere in the realm of spiritual bypassing. And I have to cry that, Krishna, please help me. You know, and when I have problems, so you're asking about problems in this world. Okay, problems in my own life, problems in the lives of others, problems in Ukraine, problems in Gaza, you know, genocide, all of this, problems everywhere. That's the nature of this world. And but we should try, like little drops, like Mother Teresa, trying to offer those little drops, try our best within our capacity, within our lives, to be agents of change, to be agents of blessings in whatever way we can. Just like you guys in Plenitude, I know you're helping the elderly people in the neighborhood. You know, you're helping the kids in the neighborhood. You're helping to teach people how to grow wonderful things. And you know, this is what it means to be a change agent within the realm of my capacity, you know, but at the same time, remembering that this is the nature of this world, and Krishna is wants us to come back to his world, you know? So, try to be agents of those those portions and plenary portions, to give informations of that world that, you know, guys, this is not our home. And we have to take shelter of Krishna to go back to him, because this world is not our home. And I wanted to say one other thing, that the holy name is like an umbrella that shelters us, but it's an umbrella that has nectar pouring down inside of us. So there is, in fact, a blazing fire of material existence all around us. And you could say maybe it's getting worse, you know, with all the terrible leaders we have in the world right now. You know, there, you know, so much fascism that's gaining ground. But to chant the holy name, to take shelter of Krishna in our hearts, not just with lip service, but to really take shelter of Krishna, it's like having an umbrella walking around over you wherever you go in the world. And inside that umbrella, it's showering nectar on you, even though maybe all around you there's a blazing fire of material existence. So the holy name is that rain cloud of mercy. The saints are, okay, the song you just sang before I started talking, it says that samsara davan alalita loka, this world is a blazing fire, and the ocean, divinity, is that deliverer. Krishna is the deliverer, like that ocean of good qualities. And the saints are like rain clouds that come up and shower on everywhere, on the rocks, on the, on the people who can't even receive it. But so we have to also help and help those rain clouds of mercy. But that's understanding the nature of this world, that all around me may be a blazing fire, and I can try my best to be an agent of change in whatever small ways I can in my life or in the world, either politically, like Jean is trying to do in San Juan, or in whatever ways we can, But it's the nature of this world. And those who take shelter are under the umbrella of nectar. Those who take shelter with their hearts. Is that helpful? And pray for all suffering people, and then look around and see what can I do. Okay, can I share something else? Is it too much talking? Did I share something else? Okay. There's a nice saying that a devotee should be someone who, like Kunti Devi, there's Kunti, she has a beautiful name. So like Kunti Devi, we should look back in our lives and thank Krishna for all the ways he saved me up until today, right? Like Kunti Devi did in her prayer, beautiful prayers. And like Prahlad Maharaj, we should look within and have faith in Krishna, to take shelter of Krishna in prayer. And like Dhruva Maharaj, look within, like Prahlad Maharaj, look within. And then like Prabhupada, to look around and see, where's an opportunity for me to serve Krishna? What can I do in my life with the abilities, the God-given abilities I have? What can I do in my life to be a change agent, to help the suffering world in whatever ways I can? Yeah. Actually, there's one other thing I want to share, if I can. If I'm not, just, you're going to kick me out and never invite me again for talking too long. But there's one. Okay, there's one other thing I heard that I really want to share with all of you that I thought was so amazing. So maybe you've heard the name Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. So there's Prabhupada's guru Bhakti Siddhanta, his guru Gorkashore, and then there's Jagannath Das Babaji. So he was a Babaji who was like a renunciate who lived over 100 years ago. But he's something really interesting that I want to share with you. Because sometimes we think, oh yeah, if I'm going to be a devotee, I have to chant like at least 16 rounds every day. I have to chant 1,000,000 rounds, and it's impossible, and I'm never going to be able to do that. And so I do it with a lot of distraction while I'm talking, while I'm, looking at my phone. So he said something really amazing. He said, no, it's better. He said, it's better than chanting lots and lots of rounds of the holy name without attention. Better than doing that, it would be better to go and plant some plants in the earth and, grow some tulsi, or grow some potatoes, or grow some papaya, or grow something. He actually said that's better than chanting lots and lots of rounds without attention. Isn't that amazing? I thought that was such a good thing to share with all of you. Many of you are farmers or work in agriculture, but isn't that amazing? So chant with attention, whatever number you can do with attention, even if it's just one. Chant with attention, crying to Krishna, and then that's not spiritual bypass. If I'm crying to Krishna, and if I'm not crying to Krishna, then I can cry that I'm not crying to Krishna. In other words, cry to Krishna. Right? So, yeah, thank you so much.
Well, Rukmini, I can see Juan, our friend Juan here, who's an amazing farmer. He's planting tulsi between every coffee bush, and as soon as you were saying that, his face was just like, like glowing.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? A statement coming from a great saint like that? That better to plant tulsi or papaya or potatoes or whatever you're planting than to chant the holy name with inattention, which would be like a type of spiritual bypass. If you're going to chant and pour your heart out to Krishna. Yeah.
Well, Rukmini, thank you so much for emphasizing on gratitude, looking at our pride, offering it, and just taking shelter of the holy names. It seems very simple and doable, like with dissociation and your encouragement. Yeah.
But we have to keep trying again because the pride keeps coming in. We have to keep try again. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, Rukmini, thank you so much. Everybody's like, you could see, with a huge smile. And Rukmini, just really quick.
Thank you, Juan, thank you for planting tulsi in between the coffee. Thank you. And actually, one other thing, I heard that, coffee keeps you awake if you drink it, but I heard, maybe you guys know this, I heard coffee leaves, if you make a tea of coffee leaves, it helps you fall asleep. I don't know if it's true, but I heard that. When I was in Colombia, I heard that. I don't know if it's true.
Wow. Well, Rukmini, speaking of Colombia, if people want to continue to have your association, what are ways that we mentioned the retreat in January, but if there's, you want to share about Rukmini Devi, and if someone has to go, please go for it. But
Urban Devi, we have Urban Devi once a month. And if anyone sends their WhatsApp number, I can invite you to our once a month Urban Devi talk. It's a women's sangha. Sorry, guys, but it's a women's sangha. We don't mean to be prejudiced. Urban Devi, and I can stand.
Yeah, and then Rukmini has this beautiful retreat in January in India with her beloved son Gauravani, who's a dear friend and an amazing kirtaniya. Just amazing. So
please come. You're all invited. You're all invited. No discrimination, guys, women, everybody, kids. Last year we had a whole pack their own chanting parties of chanting around everywhere. So please come. You're all invited. And also, if it's too much money, you can pay on time. Like I know some people came from Colombia and it was a little expensive for them, but you can pay a little bit at a time. So please come. It's too much fun. We have a wonderful time. And we end up at the flower festival. Maybe you've seen pictures of the flower festival and everybody's throwing flowers at the deities and at each other. So we end up at the flower festival.
Oh, and hopefully we can bring you to Puerto Rico too again this coming year. Well, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for spending Sunday together, and thank you so much, Rukmini. This is true wealth to have this time together.
Thank you. I know your hearts are wide open for love, so thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, we'll do our live kirtan here. Is that true?
Sure. Yeah, we always end with a very short kirtan. Thank you so much, Rukmini. Yeah, for me, a takeaway was what you were sharing about bringing it to the heart space. That was a real takeaway for me. Thank you. We'll see you soon.